Here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the hardest working man in goalkeeper coaching, the one and only Las Vegas Lights goalkeeper coach, Omar Zini. What's up, dude? You surviving? Surviving the 17 jobs?
I'm surviving. I'm doing well. I've had my coffee, so I'm ready to go.
Joining us, guys, today is a guest panelist. This man doesn't need an introduction out there, especially anybody who's been following the United Goalkeeping Alliance. Shout out to the United Goalkeeping Alliance out there on the East Coast. We got Goalline himself, Goalline Performance himself, who's now, congratulations, the women's soccer coach at Pitt, Jesse Goleman. Jesse, what's up, man? Congrats on the new gig.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome. It's been awesome so far, and it's, being from Pittsburgh, it's great to come home and back to a university that you pretty much watch and grew up right next to. So it's been awesome. It's been an awesome experience, and looking forward to getting the season rolling.
It's funny that you said that, Jesse, in regards to the city that you grew up in and everything like that, because Omar literally couldn't have walked into a better situation than what he had. Is literally, he's like, I'm looking for a professional gig. Like, there happens to be a professional club 10 minutes from my house, and obviously that's been working out for you, Omar.
Yeah, no, I got very fortunate. Took the job at Cal State LA. Again, things in the world happened at the weirdest of times. Mike was playing, I think it was pickup soccer with one of the assistant coaches like 3 years back. And then he said, we need a goalkeeper coach. Came to me. The head coach came to watch me train a guy who was 33 years old just to see if I was good. It was a weird situation. I came in, I was there for 2 years. And then, obviously COVID happened. So there's a gap year. He calls me and says, hey, LAFC is thinking about bringing a second team in. They're traveling to Vegas for their home games, but they'll train out of LA. What do you think? And I was like, just let's see how it goes. Sets me up, and then obviously the college season started up now. And as a thank you for helping me get that job, I committed to one more year of college soccer. So it's weird. 6 a.m. training today, and then we get a 2-hour break, and then LAFC2 or Las Vegas Lights, we have training at 10:30. And so it's just it's all in one place, but it's a unique experience for sure.
I mean, I don't know anybody else who's doing that. Jesse, do you know anybody else who's coaching college and pro at the same time? And honestly, I didn't even know that was allowed. Like, I don't know, Omar, how much you should be saying publicly on the air.
It should be fine, I think. The only issue I'm going to run into is there are certain days so far where I've had specific topics that I wanted to cover, and they're very similar to the opposing teams that we're playing. So I'll usually just run the same session that I'll run for the LAFC guys that I run for. The LA, Cal State LA, can't even say the names, but so it's just it's so nice to be able to do 2-in-1 with those sessions. So it's been fun.
Well, Jesse, obviously, you were on the show last year during the quarantine, and obviously a lot's changed for you since that last time that you were on. At the time, you were running your goal line performance, in your local town, like you were talking about, and doing some little sessions here and there on the side. And but then after that, you ended up. Why don't you kind of fill us in what happened? You ended up going to Northeastern, doing the men's program, and now back at Pitt.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. A little over a year ago today, I moved to Boston to be the goalkeeper coach for Northeastern, and obviously the fall season didn't happen, and took a director of goalkeeping job as well for a local club team there. And, just did most of the club stuff. And obviously the season happened with Northeastern, and what a great experience that was. My first Division I experience with the men. I mean, great group of goalkeepers, great coaching staff, great experience. But then, and then at the end of April, headed out to Des Moines to work with the Des Moines Menace. And obviously we won the USL2 this past summer, which was an incredible experience. And it was just that was an amazing summer. And then, now I'm back here in Pittsburgh, and that was pretty much my year. So I lived in Boston, lived in Iowa, and now I'm back in Pittsburgh. So been bouncing around a little bit.
Dude, I mean, that's crazy. It sounds very similar to the Omar story. Go as college, pro, and then back to college again. Although Omar's still doing the pro at the same time as the college type of thing. That obviously, Jesse, do you kind of feel, because I think Omar said this, before in the past, that having that collegiate experience, at the collegiate level first, helped you once you got to that professional level and we're working with, some more seasoned players.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost. I mean, working with the menace goalkeepers. I mean, all those goalkeepers. We had 5 goalkeepers come in and out, and obviously, USL2 guys come, guys go. But I mean, that was a whole new level of the whole roster too. It was just the level of talent there was just I don't know if I would say I didn't know what to expect. I knew it would be a good level, but I mean, just working with that level of talent and that level of goalkeeping, it really forces you to become a better coach and try to understand a little bit more from the goalkeeping side of things. But it was, yeah, I mean, just such an incredible experience, really.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Like,
Omar.
just to add in on that, I think something that I've kind of had better perspective with is, obviously you're a player, you play in college, and then after you get into coaching, sometimes there's a little bit of a recency bias. You forget that you maybe weren't as good, and some of the things you're coaching into the goalkeepers you may not have been able to do. But obviously, with more experience as a coach, you understand that. But for example, our starting goalkeeper for the Lights, he's 20 and was at Virginia the year before. So I trained these college guys, and I had a guy named Alex for 2 years as well. His name's Alex, crazy, but he had him for 2 years, and he's making some mistakes here and there. But it just triggered in my mind that a lot of these guys are still really young, don't have many games. They're still making these mistakes. So now having that experience in college and then transferring that to Alex with Las Vegas Lights, we had a conversation not too long ago, and I said, look, dude, you're on the right path. Like, on the big picture, I love what you're doing. There's a little things here and there where, again, getting those games, whether it be with us or you would have stayed in college, you would have probably made those same errors. But it's important that we don't make those same errors again. So don't be discouraged. Let's watch the footage, understand why it happened, where we could correct things, and what the triggers that cause you to do X, Y, Z. And then now we can actually progress. And that's the importance, I think, of actual development. And that college experience, I think, gave me that perspective.
By the way, Jesse, feel free to step in any time. But Omar, you just brought up something that epiphany, like light bulb over my head. Like if I had Jesse's light bulb that's like right over his head right now, if I had that right now,
this guy,
cartoon style, yeah, like Space Jam 2 style. Like if that could happen to me right now, because you said something I'd never even thought of before, and that is that regardless of what level you choose to play at, depending on what level of development you're at, those same mistakes will probably happen. So whether you're playing in college, USL2, MLS, Champions League, chances are if you're 20 years old and you're at a certain level of development, you're going to be making those mistakes regardless. So it's really about finding the environment that's going to, for lack of a better term, allow you to make those mistakes and grow from them and keep continuing to improve. And sometimes that is staying in college. Sometimes that is moving on to the pro level, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's always the biggest thing, and not just goalkeepers in general, but it's just players too, just finding the right environment that's going to help you succeed. I was lucky enough to play at a small school and come in and play right away, and my coaches know, and I know that I made my fair share of mistakes my first couple of years, but they always just stuck by me. And right now as a coach and just looking back, I'm very fortunate to have that, and having played so many games, you just become such a much better goalkeeper, and you just see so much more just being able to play and experience everything on the field.
Yeah.
It's funny about that, but Omar, because I was just kind of thinking about this. Obviously, one of the things that you had wanted to do when you were younger is, you'd wanted to. UCLA was kind of like a destination school that you were really looking at. That was somewhere that you really wanted to play. But do you feel that if you had gone to UCLA and you made the same mistakes that you were making at Davis, that maybe that environment wouldn't have allowed you to make those mistakes and continue to grow because it was a more cutthroat environment?
For sure, yeah. And I think, if I would have gone to UCLA, I probably wouldn't have played. There was, an incredible pedigree of goalkeepers that went through who are still playing professionally to this day. So I probably wouldn't have gotten much on-field experience. So that's why I always suggest to young goalkeepers that, let's be realistic. And some kids that I train, they tell me, hey, I want to go to Wake Forest. I want to go here. And I'm like, look, they're recruiting the best of the best. And if you want me to be honest with you, you probably go there and sit on a bench. And if you develop properly for the next 3-4 years, potentially use that red shirt for your junior year and senior year. But if you really want to actually play and then develop the game experience where the technique is already there, but you just need the decision making to really, sharpen up, then go to a school that's not probably, like let's say Davis, for example. We're not competing on the national level every year, but we are competing in the conference where maybe you have a good team and you have a good run. And obviously those experiences, speak volumes to your college experience and how I reflect on it versus friends who went to other places and didn't get very many minutes. So I think, again, it's also being a realist and understanding that your development may be just a year or two away, and it's better for you to get those minutes potentially versus sitting on a bench.
And a lot of it also has to do with the competition that you're playing against, not necessarily the school that you're at. Like Jesse, obviously, you're in the ACC. Your women are going up against some of the best players in the country. Throughout the regular season. So just because they might not be at the Stanford or Florida State or North Carolina or whatever, doesn't mean they're not playing that competition.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it'll be. I mean, just playing in the ACC, just going off that, it's going to be an interesting year. You're playing the best of the best, and if we're talking development, and you're gonna develop a lot, because chances are you're gonna make a mistake playing against some of the better teams in the country. I mean, 3 of the top 5 teams in the preseason polls were ACC teams. So, chances are you're seeing some good competition, and we're probably gonna make some mistakes, but that's just the nature of the game. And we're hopefully providing an environment that it's going to allow our goalkeepers at least to fix them and move on, and just continue to play at a high level and succeed.
Mike,
go ahead, Omar.
To that point, I think also too, when I've played at higher levels, I've realized that, let's say there's 5 chances at the higher levels. In those 5 chances, the quality of player, which is on a better team, they will make you work 5 out of 5 times, maybe 4 out of 5. Then you get players who have good ideas but don't have that extra little bit of quality, that little bit of sauce, and they don't make you pay for mistakes. If you drop a ball and the striker is there, maybe they chip it over you, maybe they cross it back, but then you play against lower level guys who maybe don't even follow up the shot. So there's like little things like that where you really, really have to be sharp in 90 minutes, and you can relax afterwards, but you mentally and physically have to be taxed throughout the game when you play higher level, because any little inch that you give up, they will make you pay for it.
Dude, I mean, even just thinking about this right now, to both you guys, and then we'll kind of get into the topic. But right before this, the German Super Cup was going on. Bayern and Dortmund. And obviously, Dortmund has a new goalkeeper, and it's one of those things where you're going up. And I'm not saying that Dortmund's not a high level team, because they obviously are a high level team. But when you're playing a Bayern Munich and you have a Lewandowski type of player, making a run type of a thing, every single little ball that's served into the box, a slight touch here and there, I mean, he's going to find a way to make that finish. And it is very similar in regards to, like, Omar, for you, when you're talking about, even when you played at Davis and you're going up against, the Santa Barbaras and things like that, is like, those high level players, they are going to push you, and maybe you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be expecting that level next time you're playing. And so you're going to be that heightened and aware. And so you're never going to be slacking off, because that's the level you're expecting, even if the players that you're going up against aren't at that level,
Definitely. And you see, like, I remember we had some summer teams, and like UCLA guys would come join us, and we play, and we realize like every single pass that they're making is crisp. It has to be right on the front foot, proper weight, proper location. And you kind of start realizing, like you said, Mike, there's no opportunities to be lackadaisical, because if you do it, you pay for it. And there's expensive mistakes and inexpensive mistakes. So in my opinion, Donnarumma being at AC Milan, they're a big club, yes, in the grand scheme of like the history of Italian football and like world football, but in the sense of they weren't a world power at the time. So him making those mistakes and getting his experience, I think, was super important at that level, or at kind of like not being in the public eye. So now those mistakes, now he's kind of iron them out, in the lack of a better phrase, but he's ironed them out. And I think now stepping in with PSG, I think he's a more refined goalkeeper than if he got that opportunity at 17.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up a really good point right there. As I think Jesse might be adjusting his lighting situation right now. So we've got the HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey avatar.
My apologies. Just give me 30 seconds.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're very familiar with it. From this podcast. It's a known avatar, I think, on this podcast. But kind of getting back to your point there, Omar, I think you've brought up such a really good point. Now you see it when such a look at the situation right now with Nubel at Bayern Munich. If he had stayed at, well, maybe not Schalke, but if he had stayed in the Bundesliga, maybe a lower tier, Bundesliga team that didn't have Manuel Neuer, how much farther along would Nubel be right now? We haven't seen that guy play in like 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, same goes for the conversation with Kepa. I mean, look, Mendy's a great goalkeeper, and again, look at Mendy's like career. It obviously wasn't a straight path, and he had to, spend some time in the lower leagues and prove himself. But it's almost better to be that underdog who outperforms than be that guy who became the most expensive goalkeeper in the world and then underperforms, whether it was the league or he wasn't prepared for the moment. I don't know what it was, but I think now he's damaged goods, in my opinion, mentally. I would say now from that, from the last Super Cup game coming in for the PKs, I think he definitely boosted his credibility in the club again. The players look at him and say, okay, you're good to us on certain levels. But I think, again, he needs to go to a new club, in my opinion, and, fight for his confidence back and then fight for, consistent minutes.
I mean, I think this is kind of leading into this topic right now, guys. And guys, today's topic is we're going to be talking all about preseason training, because I think there's a lot of fallacies out there on what, especially at the university level, what you're expected to do during preseason to get ready for that first scrimmage game or that first, preseason match and everything like that. Because I think Omar and Jesse, because you're off camera right now, I'm just going to kind of refer this to Omar first. What do we mean, kind of, Omar, in regards to finding that balance between wanting to train, quote unquote, and also injury prevention?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think the kind of college mentality, and I've had cousins who played before I did, and family that played in college as well. And they'd always tell me at these family dinners, like, hey, you're going to get so fit because you're going to be running hills, you're going to be doing sprints. The first 2 weeks of Hell Week or death, you have 2 sessions a day. And when I got to college, I wasn't fit. I thought I was going to get fit in those 2 weeks. But then I realized that the quality of players, they come in fit, not just like aerobically, like, you're running and doing sprints, physically, so that your body can withstand a full season. And you have a good threshold there. So I think, in my opinion, coming into training camp, if you're not in shape, that's when you'll see most of the injuries. And if you, as a coach, can start periodizing and realizing, okay, if it's a double day, a hard session at the beginning where it's, technical and we do a lot of repetitions, and then the afternoon is more tactical, 1-touch, 2-touch clearances where your bodies are, not hitting the ground as much, you get creative. And I think speaking to the head coach and having an understanding of there's goalkeeper fitness and there's regular fitness, and this morning session is going to be the goalkeeping fitness side of things, I'll take care of that. But in the afternoon, we'll integrate them with the team and so on and so forth. So I think there's a mix between the two. But as a goalkeeper coach, we have to remember that there is goalkeeper fitness.
No. Now, obviously, Jesse, you come from a sports performance background. For people who are unfamiliar out there, you're not just a high-level goalkeeper coach, but you've also spent a lot of time in sports performance, not just working with goalkeepers, but other type of athletes. Is there something specifically in regards to management that you really want to stress to people out there who are listening?
Yeah, I mean, I think Omar kind of hit it nail on the head. Is you can't just come in day one and hammer the guys or girls. I think, because if you're coming in unfit, you're just going to get hurt, and it's just not doing anybody any favors. Just trying to get their fitness up in the first week. The team needs to come in fit, and if you're not fit, then some coaches have decisions to make. Is should you train? Should you play? And so on and so forth. I think from just being at Pitt, we were lucky that a lot of the girls were there in the summer. So they were, they've been together doing captain's practices, working with our strength and conditioning coach for about 6 weeks or so before preseason. So, I mean, our girls were pretty much already fit coming into preseason. So once, day one, we could pretty much just hit the ground running just with regular training sessions and avoiding injuries. But obviously injuries are going to happen. But yeah, I mean, if you're unfit and coaches are just trying to come in and, as a coach, I think you expect everybody to be fit, but unfortunately, that's just not the case. So I think it's kind of about, like Omar said, just periodizing and slowly building up that fitness into a place where everybody can be at that same level, because it's a long season, right? And for most schools, I think you just have you want to be peaking around the October time, getting into conference season. So not to say that non-conference doesn't matter, because obviously every game matters, but you still want to be peaking later in the season rather than the first couple weeks.
I think you're bringing up a really good point there. However, Omar, I do have a question for you, because obviously, you've been around it both on the collegiate side and the professional side now. Do you believe that based on that first day, based on before you even begin that first day, you could have either won or lost the starting job based on what you'd been doing prior?
Yes, I think there's the eye test. I mean, we can't lie about that. It's one of those where you kind of look at the body shapes and the body types, and you kind of go, okay, this person's been working, this person hasn't been working. But that's just a quick little glance. And if it's somebody who in the past has shown, hey, if you lose some weight, you'll be good, and they come in out of shape, then in my opinion, yes, we start going, okay, what were you really doing in the off season? Don't BS me. But the other side of it is like, for me, if I can get you into training sessions within the first like 5 minutes, I can tell if you're in goalkeeper shape or if you're not.
Yeah. And I think, by the way, one thing I love is the fact is that for a college-based episode, you're wearing a Cal State LA shirt, so you're
Yes, I
repping
just realized that.
college soccer while you're doing that. I didn't know if that was an intentional thing or if that was just subconscious. You were like, you know what? You're like, I gotta steer clear for the pro stuff for a second here, and I gotta give the love back to the youngins. Well, I guess they wouldn't like to be called youngins. They probably would like to be called adults, but adults in training.
Yeah.
Can we call them adults in training? Is that?
It was pretty funny. We finished up our training today at with LAFC. Finished around 11:50, and the Cal State LA guys rolled in, and they had training at 12. I'm not committed to the 12 o'clock session, so I'm like walking out, and some of the players were like, "Are you guys like is this a youth team? Like youth LAFC team?" Like, no, we just have a lot of academy guys. Like this is a pro team. I promise you, it's a pro team. So it's just crazy, like the mix, and that's the tough too. Is like some younger kids, they have more energy and like their bodies are still developing. So can we push them a little bit more? And that's another conversation for that time.
That's actually a good conversation though in regards to the difference between a incoming freshman Jesse coming in, and a senior coming in, and what your expectations are of them in the preseason, and how you can make sure that their load is properly, managed so that they don't overdo themselves because they've never been in this environment before, right?
Yeah. It's been so cool. We have a great strength and conditioning coach on staff. We have all the GPS systems. So, I mean, every day we're looking at these player loads and monitoring, what are we doing on a daily basis? What's the game load? How can we compare to game load? So I think it's so important just to have a coach or at least just to be able to monitor some type of loading, even if you're not using the GPS, because I know some schools aren't as fortunate. I've been at plenty of schools where we didn't have the money to have those GPS systems and the catapult and all that good stuff. But if you can just find a way to monitor player loading and goalkeeper loading and just, asking how people feel, I think that'll kind of lead you into the best direction.
Yeah, and I think, think, Omar, something that I kind of want to ask you is because obviously it's a little bit different in the professional environment. These guys are under professional contracts, they're required to perform at a certain level, regardless of whether they're playing or not. And you kind of have an idea kind of going in, based on, veterans and rookies and all that sort of thing. But like at the collegiate environment, how important is it to balance those reps in the preseason to really give everybody a legitimate chance to get seen and to get an opportunity to compete for the job?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the coach and how creative you can be. Like, for example, we have 4 keepers now at Cal State LA, and so I'm doing 2 and 2. So they pair up with the new goalkeeper every session. And I think, again, I try to make sure that even though I may know who the starter is, I give everybody the equal amount of reps. And again, I'm very like a harsh critic in preseason where we can do a little bit more coaching. So I kind of come down on them hard. And I'm, like I told you, Mike, a few episodes in the past, like I have a certain standard and you need to have a higher standard for yourself. And if it drops below your standard and my standard, that's when we have issues. And I've been very, very fortunate that we've been able to communicate that with everybody, that it's a fair competition. Everybody's getting an equal amount of reps. It's your time to showcase what what you have. And then obviously the head coach comes in and he's like, hey, I'm watching the session. Who do you think's good? And then you start having a conversation with the head coach about who fits the system better. So it's a bigger picture, but the first few weeks really, really dictates how you want to represent yourself in the team. And who knows if the first, goalkeeper gets chosen, he goes down. That competition during preseason, showing your character, can you be that number 2 who fights for the number 1 position versus I'm not going to be the number 1, so I'm just gonna kick it. It's not going to be worth my time. So I think that first preseason opportunity gives you an opportunity to see their character as well.
Yeah, and just, kind of to adding onto that whole thing, I think one of the difficulties, and I know I'd been in this situation before, as a collegiate player myself, where I had a certain point of view of what the coaching staff thought of me, whether it was positive or negative. and that might not necessarily have been the case, but I was second guessing myself because I was trying to think, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? How important is it that you have that honest dialogue with these players at the beginning of the preseason and really discuss with them, where they stand, so that they are not trying to figure you out, because I think that just can play some horrible mental gymnastics on players.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of been going through it right now with my girls at Pitt. We explained to them it was an open competition. But yeah, they're everyone is always going to think like, okay, where am I? Am I the first? Am I the second? Am I the third? What am I doing? Oh my goodness, I just made a mistake, so now I'm going from 2 to 3 or to what have you. But any type of open transparency and open dialogue that you can have with your goalkeepers, I think is always going to be important. Whether it's good or it's positive or negative. I think a goalkeeper is going to want to hear, okay, you're the third string right now. This is what you need to do to beat the number 2. Okay, you're the second string. Here's what you do to need to beat the number 1. Okay, you're the starter because of this, and this. And I think from that standpoint, you always want to have that open dialogue and be very transparent with your goalkeepers, because obviously one person is going to be playing the full 90 minutes, and you might, and the other goalkeepers might not see the field for an entire season. So I think just having that, I don't want to call it peace of mind because it might be frustrating, knowing you're a 3 or 4, but having that peace of mind to at least know where you stand, I think will create for a better environment in training as well.
Omar, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think one of the problems is that a lot of goalkeeper coaches don't want to have that conversation because it's uncomfortable, and they don't know how to go about it in an appropriate manner where they're direct, and honest, but at the same time, they're not berating the goalkeeper or attacking them or putting the goalkeeper on the defensive, because I think personally myself, like, I would much rather know where I stand and specific reasons on why I stand there, because then I would know where to go from there, as opposed to either just guessing or just being told, yeah, this is where we are right now, and that's what it is, and then no feedback on why that is, because then I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, I think that's important too. And I think, in my opinion, why you need to give it about a week to 2 weeks, you need to give a good amount of time where you as a coach can really develop an honest perspective without having the emotional, okay, he had a bad day today, he's done, I'm not going to evaluate him anymore because he's not good enough. It's more so, okay, he had a bad day, let's see how he reacts. There's always a better perspective to take from a bad day. So for me, it's always been, okay, this, and this is wrong. Okay, the next goalkeeper that I am training, this, and this is bad. Okay, then I'm just kind of like assessing them as we go. And then when it's time to make a proper decision where hey, this is going to be our starter for the season. And if that, goalkeeper comes to me and I've had that situation, I say, look, let's sit down. Let's watch the film. Let me show you what I'm seeing and what I'm noticing. And again, what the coaching staff and I have discussed. And we had that this year with Las Vegas. We had a new guy come in, Alex Rando, who's a very, very good goalkeeper. He became our starter over a goalkeeper that we had who was in our system for the last 2 months. And then it was, very interesting conversation to have when he asked, okay, why am I not starting? I've been here and this guy just got here. And we said, look, this goalkeeper has this, and this. You need to work on this, and this. Okay, he gives us more peace of mind when we play. It comes down from the head coach as well. So I think goalkeepers will respect you more if you're not just, hey, when they press you, you're pulling things out of where, but you actually have every single bullet point and you've been really, really meticulous and prepared throughout that entire process to give them a definitive answer of why you made that decision.
Dude, you just brought up a really good point right there, Omar. And Jesse, I don't know how you feel about this too, but I think this is one of the most difficult things for younger goalkeepers to accept, is because I think a lot of times they see, obviously their most intimate relationship is with the goalkeeper coach, but I think a lot of young goalkeepers think that the goalkeeper coach has the ultimate say on the starting 11. And Jesse, as you know, Omar, as you know, obviously, at the collegiate level or at the professional level, that is not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I mean, at least especially for me too, it's like, just being so new to the staff and seeing the goalkeepers, it's been about 10 days or so since, maybe a little bit more, maybe closer to 2 weeks now since I've been working with the goalkeepers. And, I have my obviously opinions in my view, and, I get to, I know them a little bit more, but in that first scrimmage, we had like maybe 5 training sessions with them. And I was like, I have my decision, but I was like, I need you guys to kind of make it for me for right now, just because, I'm working with them every day, but you still know them a little bit better. So I think again, the head coaches see him on a different side of training as well. So I think again that communication as a staff too is going to be important. But yeah, the head coach definitely has the final decision in everything.
Jesse,
Yeah.
I
ahead,
just want
Omar.
to ask you a quick question, because I ran into this. I have ran into this over the past few years, where a coach will, let's say a trialist comes in, or we have people competing for the starting job. They ask me, "Oh, what do you think about this goalkeeper?" And I was always so quick to count someone out, or say they weren't good, or just say, "Hey, they have no redeeming qualities." After one session, I just thought maybe it was my ego of like, I can assess somebody right off the bat.
Right.
And then over time, I'm realizing, I'm like, holy crap, there's goalkeepers that I counted out, or that I saw one session, and then the next 2 sessions they bounced back and killed it. So have you kind of felt that in the college system now, where you're kind of like, I may have spoken too early about that person, let me backtrack a little bit, they're better or they're worse than I thought?
Yeah, I think I first did that at Northeastern, kind of just like, I was so quick to judge, and you slowly, like, just slowly you kind of see it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe they're doing this. Maybe they just like, were tired that one day. So, I've learned, I think, to, again, not be so quick to judge a goalkeeper just by 1 session, 2 sessions, and try to really see, over maybe a week or two, just really try to get to know them. And because again, every goalkeeper has a bad day. So it's like, you don't want to, maybe you just got that goalkeeper on the session and, something family related happened and their mind's not focused. So yeah, I'm definitely guilty of, that ego. It's like, I can assess somebody in one day, you're fine. But it's, yeah, you definitely need to see a goalkeeper through course of a week. And plus two, I think what sometimes we might forget to understand is a training session, and then seeing a goalkeeper in a game, in a short-sided game, 7v7, 11v11 is completely different, and it's a completely different environment. And I think you can get one goalkeeper in training and then have a completely different goalkeeper in a game for whatever reason.
Oh my God, guys. I mean, you just brought up something just that I'm just thinking about, is in regards to like when I was younger and I started, working in the college environment and going to those combines, scouting for players and things like that. And just the misidentification that I made off the bat based on just like the simple like handling sessions. And I'm like, that dude's awesome. That guy's awesome. He gets in the game and he's like 1v1. He's like falling on his stomach. I'm like, oh, okay. He has no concept how to actually play the game. He just knows how to do drills. That's
right.
And that is something that it really makes you kind of reevaluate how you approach, because Omar, I think, your thing also in the assessment is that you have such a high standard of what you want. And I think sometimes, especially for some people out there who are listening, who might be coaching at the younger foundational levels, you have to recognize, like Nathan Thackeray always says, the demands of the game of that level. If you're working with a 10-year-old, you cannot be assessing them like they're a 19-year-old. You just can't, because you're going to be nitpicking forever, and you're going to be missing out on certain qualities that you can develop over time, Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that's also a leap for me, understanding that aspect of, for example, LAFC, we play out of the back a ton, and getting those goal kicks and, goalkeepers who we can identify who are very, very composed and poised under pressure and can find certain pockets and manipulate space and manipulate pockets. That's one thing. And then I go to Cal State LA, and that's not our system of play. If anything, I remember I told you our coach gets mad if I do a drill where it's like a simulated throw, and in our goalkeeper shows and he plays it one time, or he shows to the corner of the 6 or outside the 18 for a pass back. We don't play like that. So it's like the mentality now, like, what is the demand, not of just the game, but of the system of play. And now it's like coordinating those sessions, putting those sessions together to really, really get to see which goalkeepers will be the best fit for that team.
And before, kind of, guys, we're gonna be going over kind of like match day, -5 all the way up to match day. Jesse's got some awesome session designs right here that we're gonna go over. But before that, we have a question here in the comments section that I think is a great question, and it comes from the one and only United Goalkeeping Alliance founder himself, Eric Eisenhunt. Right here, who says, do these meetings with the goalkeepers in the preseason occur with the head coach or assistant coaches present? Either one of you guys.
Yeah, that's a good question. The first, so I had a meeting. Mine, I'll say no. At least for me, just because I think sometimes too. Sometimes I think players and goalkeepers might not want the head coach or assistant coach there, just because you're with them every day, so they might just feel a little bit more comfortable with you and having a little more privacy with you. And I know for me, at least I didn't want the head coach and assistant coach there just because they might hold something back. They just might not feel comfortable saying something in front of a head coach. And, I think for me too, it just helps me get to know them on a more personal level. So at least for me, in the beginning, at least I didn't have the head coach or assistant coach there.
Omar?
I think there are certain things that need to be involved, that the head coach needs to be involved in. But like personal, personal development stuff and having those tougher conversations, I hear it from the coach, and then I filter obviously the information down to dumb it down to like goalkeeping specifics. And then if they question that, then I say, look, from the top down, this is how we feel. So I usually keep that in my back pocket if the goalkeeper is, and I've had it where they just don't see things the way everybody else is seeing. They think they're better than they are. And I'm just like, look, flat out, look, you're not dependable. You're in this situation and you're dropping crosses versus teams that don't really have much action. And now you're costing us momentum. You're costing us goals. Things like that where like I'm always prepared. But yeah, for the most part, head coaches for me, unless it's very, very severe, they won't be involved.
Yeah, and I want to say this right now. When I've been in those situations as well before too, a lot of it for me, Jesse, I love what you said about being able to be open and honest, and players are more comfortable talking to just the goalkeeper coach than they are with the head coach and assistant. It's kind of like the parents are there too, as opposed to just like the older brother. They're like they'll confide in the older brother more, but like if the parents are there, like they're gonna be because they're gonna be paranoid about what they're saying. I've had to massage conversation as well too. Head coach has told me, or an AC has told me, hey, tell so-and-so blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not telling them that. Are you out of your mind? Like you'll lose them for the rest. You'll lose them for the rest of the season. Are you a crazy person right here? So I'll have to be like, okay, well, I'll take care of it. And I'm like, I'm going to say it in my words that I know is going to work. And every goalkeeper is different. So the way you speak to one goalkeeper is going to be very different than the way you speak to another goalkeeper. So I think another mistake that I made when I was younger is talking to multiple goalkeepers in front of each other about each other. And that is a terrible idea. Please don't do that. There's one more question here, guys. Do you guys mind one more question before we go to session design? Is that cool?
Please.
Is that cool? All right.
Yeah.
This comes from Miguel Martinez on YouTube, and he goes, how have you managed goalkeepers who are unhappy with not playing?
Good question, Miguel. Yeah, I think for me, it's just going to be that open, transparent conversation. Is if they're not playing, I'm sure they're going to want to know why. And again, I think it's about development too as a person, and just to show that you care about them and their development, I think can be a way to help manage that. I mean, it's definitely tough when because everyone wants to play, but at the end of the day, I think for me, it's just about managing their expectations and then managing their development too as a person and as a player. Again, I just think it's going to be a tough situation no matter what level you're at, because people are always going to be unhappy with not playing. So for me, it's just, explain to them why they're not playing. Let's try to fix why they're not playing and see what happens.
Omar, is this conversation more difficult at the pro level than at the amateur level?
I would assume it would be. I mean, obviously, you saw what's happening with the first team. Tomas has stepped in, who's our starting goalkeeper for a little bit, and then Pablo had his opportunity, and now Tomas is in there. So I'm sure for Zach, who's our first team goalkeeper coach, that's a conversation he's had. I've been very fortunate because our starting goalkeeper, we have 2 academy guys under, and he is, he's better than the guys. So it's not a close competition quite yet. So for me, I haven't had to feel awkward in those situations. However, the standard is still kept high. But I think to Jesse's point, if I was in that situation, I would say, look, obviously, like Jesse said, these are the reasons why. However, if they're based on the reasons that I'm giving you, if you'd like to get extra sessions in, or like you talked about, Mike, -3, -4 out, I usually like to make sure that the first day back, we do something very goalkeeper specific. Like, what is something you guys want to work on? And I will draw a session around that. And then as we get closer and closer to the game, it's more tactical and based on the opponent analysis. But early in the week, I kind of want to make them feel accountable for, I'm showing up to this session because I asked for it. And if they want to stay afterwards, we've done it with our center backs and, working with our some more younger goalkeepers. It's like, this is what I want you to work on. You tell me if after practice works or before practice. And we stay back there, whether it's one-touch clearances across the body with their left foot or their right foot. little things like that where I think if you really take accountability for your development and I put it in their hands, they can ask me. I'm always available. So I feel like as long as they feel I'm personable with them and they feel valued, I think it'll hold them out a little bit longer.
But by the way, you're an interesting situation right now. Obviously, being at a professional club like that, is that these young guys, these young academy guys, it's not a situation of where they just won't play at all, because they still can get reps with the youth teams. So they're there, they're learning and everything, but they're still getting reps of the youth team. Obviously, at the collegiate level, Jesse, it's much more difficult because there is no JV team for them to be playing in.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to be scrimmage, doing, in team scrimmages. It's another thing to be actually going up against competition of strangers that you don't know in any way whatsoever, because that's going to be less manufactured, for lack of a better term, than being on a scout team.
Right, exactly. So that's why, again, I think it's important just to keep an open conversation and try to focus on their development as much as you can, because everyone's there to get better every day. I mean, obviously the academics too at the college level, but you're still there to get better and try to compete for a starting spot. So just focusing on that development any way you can.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Omar.
Just like Miguel, so just to answer your question, I think make it personable, like really pull them aside. And again, you want their best interest in mind. And I've always felt comfortable knowing that I go out of my way to ask, what do you need? And if I put the ball in their court and they don't reciprocate or they don't, take advantage of that, that's their problem. For me as a coach, I'm just like, look, I'm at your service. I'm here early. I'll stay a few minutes after practice, whatever you need. Those repetitions add up. And I think as coaches, we need to offer that perspective for the kids who don't necessarily know how that extra work could add up in amount at the end of the season.
So let's do this right now. I want to pull up over here. Whoops, hold on. I'm going to turn that mute right there. So I want to pull up right now, some of Jesse's sessions from the preseason right here, with the Pitt women here. First off, Jesse, kind of before we kind of get into this whole thing, I think one of the things that I love about watching your sessions is the joy that's taking place right there. It's still competitive, but it's a fun environment. The players are enjoying themselves while they're working, at the maximum of their abilities, and how important is that for you, to have that? I mean, I'm even looking at it just like a simple activity like this, and you can't hear it because I muted it, but they're laughing, they're having a great time.
Yeah, I don't think they expected this to, our very first session to start with a big square. I said, okay, let's play some tag. Just because I don't know, I never did anything like this at the pro level. Did stuff like this at Northeastern, and again, I think these games are just fun to kind of go through and try to get them going a little bit, break them out. It kind of breaks them out of the shell too, because I think I just met these girls a few days ago, and it'll just kind of get them, I think, a little bit more comfortable with me to show them, I like to have fun, just want to get them laughing, and to show that there's more to a session than just kicking balls at each other and making diving saves.
So it was tag. Okay, so I'm not crazy.
Tag. We were trying to tag each other.
Yeah. I was watching it late last night, Omar, and I was like, "Are they playing tag?" I was like, "Man," I was like, "Oh boy, I wonder what the next session's going to look like." But then obviously, we're seeing the adjustment now. Now you're going into for those of you guys who are listening right now. Now we're going to some more actual goalkeeper like movements. You're some shuffles into sets. Mirror work and stuff. Omar, is this types of familiar type of stuff to you for the beginning of the preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously, like the component of getting everyone to know each other, but like this kind of work as well. It's like functional training of like, you're going to need this, and you need to build, in my opinion, during preseason, the muscle memory in the legs, where like, again, they need to get stronger and stronger as the season goes on. So like those kind of functional stuff where it's still fun and you're getting everybody engaged, but it's not a waste of time. It's actually going to benefit you.
Yeah. So Jesse, as we kind of move on right now, right, like for those people who are listening and stuff, like, why don't you kind of paint this picture of kind of where you go in the progression from here?
Yeah. So this was our very first session together. So, I mean, for me, I just wanted kind of just to lay a foundation and get to know the goalkeepers a little bit better. What's their footwork like? What's their touch like? Just basic passing. So a lot of this was just very simple stuff. And, I start most sessions, whether I'm doing an individual or just really any session that I'm doing, if I haven't done a session with somebody in a while or just somebody I'm trying to get to know, I'll always kind of go back to this session just because it's all technical work in the bubble and it's all foundational for me and my standpoint. So again, we're just working in a 3x3 square. just different footwork patterns, just playing the ball to their feet, keeping their touch in tight, trying to play 1-2 touches back and forth to their partner.
Omar, I got that question for you because, obviously, when you're in an environment where whether it's a private session or it's a college or pro or whatever, and you're not familiar with the players, I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of young coaches make out there is that they get too elaborate or they get too ahead of themselves when they literally don't even know how these players move first. It's all based on concept.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're just getting to know them. I think it's important to put them through like basic activation so you can kind of see where their level's at. And I think us coaches, we've trained enough kids at every age group, male and female, to understand right off the bat someone's first touch or the way they catch the ball or the way they scoop, to understand, okay, they're at a certain level, or they're not as good as we thought, or they're not as good as they would text me and say, hey, I'm trying to play professional, and I train them and I'm like, where? Like, excuse me? So it's always good to start with the not the basic, but like good fundamental stuff, and then see where they go from there.
Yeah. And I encourage anybody, honestly, who's listening to the audio right now, because it's very difficult to actually walk through this session designed from an audio standpoint. I encourage you guys to find either the Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch streams and check out the episodes themselves here from the visual, because there's a lot here that you can get from the visual here. Should we move on to the second day, Jess, or is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was all simple stuff. We finished with just, again, more kind of short movements up to the cone, little backpedaling and setting, and just more handling. So again, kind of more function, I guess, just basically more technical stuff. I don't even think we got into the goal on the first day.
Okay, so let's move into the second day right here. And why don't you before we kind of, I'm gonna
mute it. Sorry for the volume.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Well, I'll pause it first, because now it looks like we're getting a little bit more game realistic right now. So why don't you kind of walk us through day 2 before we actually start watching the video here?
Yeah. So I think here too, after day 1, because they didn't really have, while they were together over the summer, they didn't really have goalkeeper training. So day 1, coming in day 2, they were all a little bit sore, a little bit, their groins were starting to feel a little bit tight because they were doing a lot of cutting on day 1. So here, again, because we didn't get into more, again, game realistic per se, just playing out of the back, playing under pressure, I wanted to get them used to it and show them that we're going to be doing a little bit of this and trying to incorporate this into a lot of our sessions, just because, after talking to them, this is something that they didn't really get before. They had a lot of technical reps, but they never really got just getting used to playing out of the back and playing under pressure. And we do want to play out of the back. We want our goalkeepers to be comfortable with our feet. So just, again, trying to get them comfortable any way they can, playing under pressure, switching the point of the attacks.
Yeah, for those of you guys who are listening right now, what's happening is that the ball's served from a little bit out inside the 18 on an angle right there. There's a chaser coming inside the box, and the player has to make a clear decision with the outside foot and play it out. Omar, any thoughts here?
No. I think, again, like Jesse's saying, I think style of play is important, and getting those repetitions. Like, we can't get mad at somebody if they're not, excelling at something that we don't train or implement into session. So I think it's important, especially in preseason when you have double days, to get sessions like this where their body won't be taxed, but mentally they need to be composed with those first touches and prep touches. So I think it's great work.
Yeah. So now what's the progression? Go ahead, Jess. Yeah. What's the progression?
So I plan my sessions a little bit weird. Like, I think a lot of coaches kind of will either work backwards and try to have everything related, in a sense, from an in possession, out of possession standpoint. And I do that to an extent with some of the movement. But for me, I think just goalkeeping is it's just such an odd position. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So sometimes I just like to do an in possession activity and then just go to something completely different in handling, just to like see where their mental state's at too, just to kind of keep them off guard. But here's, again, just more a little bit of handling, a little bit of movement across the goal, a little bit of passing. And I think that's kind of all the time we had for the day. I believe, at least, that was on film. But
no, you just brought up a really good point, though. And Omar, this is a conversation that that we've obviously had on the show, especially in the collegiate environment. Even in the preseason, like, it's really about when the coaches want the goalkeepers to get involved. And a lot of times that can change from day to day. So you might plan out a session in the preseason and think, oh, okay, well, I've got an hour with them right here, and you end up having 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more difficult in the college setup. I mean, luckily at Cal State LA, we always had meetings, so we knew when I would have them. Professional level, they let you know a day in advance. So you have, Steve Trundle does a good job of that. So we have an idea of who I'm getting, the amount of space I'm getting. So I have everything at my disposal.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously no, and I was saying, more at the collegiate level than the professional level. I didn't want to throw LAFC under the bus right there. I didn't want to say that they're just that they don't know what they're doing right there. But Jesse, obviously, you guys have conversations as well too. I don't want to also say the Pitt is just kind of playing it on the fly. But again, as goalkeeper coaches, we have to be malleable, and we have to be able to adjust our sessions based on the needs of the team. I mean, they might lose numbers. A couple people might get injured, or so and so has to leave for an exam, and you have to step in.
Plus, I think too, what I've started to do is, I mean, I always know how much time I'm given. But I think for me, it's like, if I know I'm going to have like 45 minutes, and then I know we're going to go into short-sided game, I know the goalkeepers are going to get a lot of reps in that too. So then I try to go, okay, what's really, what's the most valuable? What can I get out of them in really like a 35-minute session after a warm-up or so? And, what do they really need to focus on? Because I know they're about to get a lot of reps, so I don't need to worry about, getting them the reps in my session per se, because I know they're about to hop into it anyway. So if I want to focus more on playing out of the back, and I know that takes a little bit longer, then, I might just spend a little bit more time there, and then take the last 10, 15 minutes to just get their hands warm and get them, start to get them kind of prepped for a short-sided game or a shooting drill, or what have you.
Yeah, I want to move into this right now, because now I want to go into the day 3, because I want everyone to see kind of what's going on here, because now that they've established a little bit of a foundation, you've done a little bit of match activity. Now you're incorporating some performance training, which you always have some awesome stuff when it comes to when it comes to that. So let me mute that real quick right here. So first off, what's going on right here, Jesse?
Yes. So first, Monday was a little bit harder. Tuesday was a little bit lighter, and then this was supposed to be kind of taper it back up and then taper it back down, because I think we were playing in like 3 days at this point. But again, just trying to prep them for crossing, and again, they're still a little bit tight and sore. Obviously, it's preseason; they're going through a lot. So just to get the ankles and legs loose, and then that next one was just to kind of prep the legs, and obviously the ankle, the line jumps are a staple in a lot of what I do and warm up. And then that drill there, again, just get the legs warm. And again, another little fun game just to kind of get them laughing a little bit, get them wrestling with each other, and, just have them pushing them around. And again, I think it's fun, just builds more camaraderie between the group. And it's just a fun little way to start the session, and kind of, again, because it's still day 3 and they're still getting to know me, I'm getting to know them. But I think it's just a fun way for them to kind of ease their mind a little bit from, who's starting, where am I, and so on and so forth.
You just found a great use for a stability ball. I'm not gonna lie, Omar. I think I want to do this at the next session that I do. I'm just gonna pull out a stability ball and just say, hey guys, everybody, we're wrestling against each other with the stability ball in between us.
Yeah, the goal is to try to push the other person kind of past the line. So as you see there, she got past the line, and then here's a little grip strength. Again, another little one. They're just trying to wrestle the ball away from each other. Kind of a little taxing on the legs, but just, again, a fun little exercise to have them compete with each other.
Omar, I got a question for you. Being in the professional environment, can you have this quote unquote type of fun or light type of activity incorporated as well too, or would you say that it would be frowned upon, or the players would look at it as silly or whatever?
No, I think you need to keep it light. I think there's obviously, with competition, with so many games going on in the season, there's nerves, there's, big games, tactical, whatever. I think sometimes you need to take the edge off a little bit. And I think, obviously, with the intention that not the entire session's like that, but just the warm up, so that, I like playing basketball, passively working out, something like this, where you're passively, engaging certain parts of the body that you'll need later in the session. I think that's where the genius of the coach has to come in, where it's like, it can be a waste of 10 minutes, or I can actually implement stuff that's going to be layered into the rest of the session. And again, that's why I think that planning out your session and really sitting down and being meticulous about it and keeping a log of that will help you out over time when you are pressed to say, hey, you had 40 minutes, now you have 20. Now you have all this backlog in your head of like, oh, I've done this, this, and this, and I can actually shorten this activity. So I think that's really important.
So now I kind of want to move into this right here, Jesse, because now it looks like now we're getting a little bit more task specific, for goalkeeping. Not saying that the line jumps weren't task specific, because that was obviously involves crossing. But why don't you kind of walk us through, and if you could paint a picture for the audio, that'd be great too.
Yeah. So this right here. So we have two Bosu balls down. I have them just stepping 1 foot on, jumping up, getting in the crossing motion, then coming down without the ball right now. And just the reason for it is the Bosu ball is supposed to kind of act like a trampoline and just get the girls up higher than they're used to, or they're not used to going. So then when they're landing, they're forcing their bodies to absorb more force. So now they're producing more force into the ground, and they're actually strengthening their legs a little bit as well. And it's just kind of getting them too comfortable at a different height. And then moving into just adding a ball, same thing, just kind of using the Bosu ball as a trampoline and just getting them maybe uncomfortable a little bit at a different height and landing at a different height, just because, again, it's just something that they're not used to, and trying to force the bodies to adapt a little bit.
Dude, I love this. I've never done this before. This looks awesome. Omar?
Yeah. That was the first time I did that too. And I was trying to figure out if I liked it or not. And I think I do like it, just because, again, it just forces the body a little bit. And it's a little more taxing just because you're landing at a little bit from a higher jump, but yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the foundational ages, and I'm looking at, that kind of, you're adding that depth jump kind of, element to it.
Exactly.
Teaching them how to land properly, Omar, any thoughts?
No, I think you're also teaching timing as well. I think that's where it's like, if you jump on the ball too early, you're going to be landing on the way down versus on the way up. So again, that's also one of those when sometimes you put like a barrier. People frown upon sometimes diving over rope, but in my opinion, if used the right way, where it's like you're going to have spatial awareness and you need to slow your body down so that you're not going underneath the rope and you're overextending, but knowing where you're going to get down. So having specific moments like this where you're teaching something that's going to be layered into the bigger picture, I think is also really, really valuable.
I noticed, Jesse, that they're getting faster. Is that because they've warmed up a little bit, or is that because just the direction that you're giving them to push into a little bit more?
That's probably just them. They're probably just getting used to the timing a little bit better, and so they could kind of speed up the reps, and they were just getting a little more comfortable, I would say.
Yeah. And now it seems like you're going from that into actual goalkeeper movements, specifically with a drop step crossover and then back into the cross. And this is, again, all without the ball. And then I'm assuming that then you incorporate the ball.
Yeah, just muscle memory stuff there. Just getting the, dropping in, just kind of working on the cross step. Because I think too, after talking to a few of them, they've never really worked with the cross step. So I just wanted to kind of see the comfort level there and just see how they move, drop in. Because again, you can see it's kind of uncomfortable for some. They're still getting used to it. So I just want to kind of paint a different picture for them. Because I think in a game too, I think we always say this, you're always just going to do subconsciously what you're most comfortable with. But at least for me, I just want to kind of paint a different picture of, okay, let's try this footwork out, see how you like it. If you don't like it, okay, you don't have to use it, but at least, it might be more beneficial too. And you might end up liking it. It might help you too, as well in a game.
I like right here when we move on from the activity, when we go into the goal right here, how you've got that high ball and then the ball's played back in, and then you have to drop back to create depth as if it was a bad rebound, like a box out, and then you got to make the save type of thing. I think this is really solid, especially at the foundational ages for any people working with younger goalkeepers here. So
yeah, and then here just kind of moving on again, just taking that drop step, trying to simulate. Okay, we're not going to come for the cross, so we're just going to get back and drop to our line, just get comfortable hitting the ground. Yeah, that's what's going on here. And this kind of, because this went well with what we were doing as a team session, because the team was going into crossing and finishing. So normally I would probably hit some wide services, but I knew that they were going to get that from the team. So I figured here I could just focus on a little bit more reaction saves.
Oh, and then now I noticed that now that you're adding the stability ball into the
back,
bringing it back, so it's all kind of coming full circle.
Yeah.
So, which I love. Now the stability ball, Jesse, are you doing that because from a safety standpoint, you'd prefer them having some sort of barrier between them and the goalkeeper so that people aren't running into each other, or what's the reason for that?
Yeah, it was more just we had the balls out, and normally I would just have another goalkeeper kind of slap at the hands and kind of hold them, but I think the stability ball just kind of creates a little bit more fun, and I think, and then you'll see here they both have the ability now to use it as kind of a rebounder as well. So kind of dual purpose stability ball, and it also, I think too, when you're jumping, it's a little bit more realistic to simulate a person kind of jumping into a person, and you kind of push them, you kind of get that little shove that an opponent might give you.
Yeah. And Omar, I don't know about you, but, working at the youth levels, maybe not at the collegiate level or the professional level, you really don't want kids running in and heading the ball, while the goalkeeper's coming in from a safety standpoint, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they've banned it, I think, at all ages. You can't do any headers. So I'm assuming there's a thing for that. But I think, I think in these situations, even when we, for example, we scout against Orange County, we want to make sure that it's their guy, then our guy in front versus our guy and then their guy. So, our goalkeeper doesn't have to run through two players. So it's just like when you have a ball like this, like that obviously adds like a defender and a striker who are probably in your way. And most teams will have a striker on the goalkeeper on corners. So to create space, it's almost like, can we worry about creating space, but also not losing focus on the service that's coming in? I think that's where we have a lot of issues sometimes, where there is traffic. You get so caught up in trying to get around the strikers that what ends up happening is that the ball comes in and you're like, well, I need to go. And you can't really control that urge, and you get caught in no man's land. And we've seen it so many times.
Yeah, I think you've brought up just a really, really good point in regards to that, because, and I think that if they get comfortable with that understanding of those runs and understanding of the placement of the players and things like that, and I'm not saying that at the collegiate level, they don't have an understanding of that, but, they're going to not have that deer in the headlights, when those runs are made in a way that they didn't expect it, or when they come out and they go, oh no, what am I supposed to do now? Type of a thing. It seems like, Jesse, that your goalkeepers are really starting to understand, how to drop, when to attack, that sort of thing. And that these balls, this barriers kind of really help them with that. So.
Yeah, that's the hope. We're still working on it. We still struggle at sometimes in dealing with those, but again, the more we practice, the better we get. I also too, what I've been doing, if you saw one of the girls slam the ball down after she missed one of the rebounds, is because what I like to do is just make it a competition between the goalkeepers. And so for that one, for instance, I did a little point system. So catching the cross is a guaranteed point, but you get a point, get another point for throwing it into the goal, and then a point if they miss it or you make a save. So the girl who slammed the ball, I think, needed to score to tie it or kind of secure her win. So that's why she was mad. And again, it just kind of creates for a little bit more of a competitive and fun environment.
I mean, and I think healthy competition is important. And I think if it's fun, healthy competition, it's much better than negative competition that people, are competing against each other for fear reasons.
Right.
And I think that's so important. How are we doing on time here, guys? Should we go through the last 2 days before the match, or how are you guys doing on time here?
I'm good if you guys are.
I gotta go soon, Mike, but I got 5 more minutes for me.
Okay. All right. So what should we do? Should we day 5 or day 6, Jesse? What would be better for you?
I think the 6th one was after. Probably go day 5, just because day 6 was after a few days and after a couple games, so it's kind of like a return to play.
Okay. All right, gotcha. All right, so I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to mute this again here, and I will pause it. Okay. So why don't you walk us through kind of now where are we in the week, and how comfortable are they? How fit are they? All of that.
Yeah. So I was trying to taper this one down a little bit, because I think we were playing with probably within 2 days, because I think the day before we were just going over set pieces. So this is probably 2 days out. And I was told by the trainer and by them, they were all feeling pretty sore and pretty tight. So I wanted to just.
Whoa! What just happened there? Did I lose you guys?
Mute. I think his headphones probably died.
My headphones died, so I'm just gonna.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
But yeah, so I think we're about 2 days out here. So again, just wanted to get them moving, get some some footwork activation, handling. So this is all just simple footwork, getting the hands working,
couple light jumps, nothing crazy. Again, they were all kind of a little bit sore, so I didn't want to do too much. And we hadn't gone over breakaways yet, so just some light smothering activities, getting them comfortable diving at hands. Again, from a kneeling standpoint, just getting technique down, and then again, just meeting the attacker head on, getting them comfortable with that. And then this one's predicted. Next one, I think, is a little bit more reaction based. So now the server can kind of choose which ball she wants to go to, and the goalkeeper is just going to react a little bit more.
I think you just brought up a really good point right there. And Omar, this is a conversation that I think we were talking about earlier at the very beginning of this episode here, is that you have to recognize what you did the day prior when you're talking about periodizing, and managing load and all those sorts of things. And if you've done something heavy, like a crossing activity like that, to immediately go into full movement breakaways, well, you're going to kill these players.
Yeah. And then I think we just did a little bit blocking next, if I'm not mistaken. Again, just kind of reacting to what the attacker's doing.
Let's see here. I think I'll move forward in it. Oh, no, I think there's still a little bit of this going on here.
Yeah.
This is still about the same, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's still kind of the same.
Okay. Well, it looks like you did not get that on tape. So we'll.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
I
think it was another shorter session for them, just because, again, they were feeling sore, so I was trying to taper it down. I think we just did it like some blocking technique after that and a little bit of handling. And then we went into kind of playing, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that kind of led up to our week. And then I think after our first scrimmage exhibition, we did a little bit more 1v1 stuff after they were kind of recovered a little bit. And again, and then from there I could kind of bring that load a little bit heavier.
I think this is just a really good kind of blanket template, and I think, Omar, I think, for young coaches out there who are listening, I think, you would express this as well too, in your opinion, is that, we don't want them to look at Jesse's session, and say, okay, cool, I'm going to do that, because they have to just use this as kind of an example of how you can build something, but it has to be based in reality of what's going on with their team, their players' strengths, what their demands are, all those sorts of things, right?
Yeah, I would hope that we're past that point now where people just blindly follow sessions without asking questions. I'd hope, Mike, I think with this podcast and people we had on, I hope we've done our job properly. But
yeah, we may have some new people. I want to stress it,
Yeah, no, but I think, again, one is understanding if you can understand like a perspective of what is Jesse trying to do with this. And then again, understanding that there's social media, that you can reach out to Jesse and ask him like, hey, what was your perspective on this? And like, why did you do this? What was the context? And he just showed us there's a reason why he was using the Bosu ball, why he was using, the stability ball for crossing. So I think understanding that aspect and then having that in your memory bank. And then when the opportunity does come with private session or a team, you can go back and say, I want to work on crossing today. Well, I want to work on crosses through traffic, lateral service. Okay, perfect. So now maybe using that, that Bosu exercise and maybe using that stability ball. So now you have it in your memory bank, you have it like stored. So you can always access that and use it. But again, if you have an idea or don't have an idea of what this is trying to do, reach out to them, reach out to anybody who posts content on social media. Most likely they'll be able to give you the reason and context behind what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And
go ahead, Jess.
For more context too, is like, it was interesting because, I get there, we play in a week, so I'm still trying to understand them as goalkeepers while also trying to prepare them for a match. So it was a little bit of an interesting week because, again, I want to understand them and understand their technique. And I kind of did more than that than match preparation, just because, again, it's preseason. So I think I had the liberty and time to do it. But it was just still, you still want to prepare them and give them the best chance to succeed in the match while trying to still understand what their strengths, what their weaknesses are after kind of a week of working with them.
And for those people out there who might be new, maybe you've clicked onto this because, you're a fan of Pitt women's soccer, or, you're a younger player, who found about it through Jesse because you've worked with him in the past. Omar, why don't you tell some people who, if they're not familiar, kind of how you do your breakdowns on social media of activities or session designs like this, to give it context so that they understand, maybe when they go back to their club, how to film and how to break it down for people to watch it so that they understand why they're doing it.
Like why, if I was to watch Jesse's session online, what goes through my head and how I
exactly, and how you would break it down.
Yeah, I think working with Steve Cherundolo, for example, sometimes I ask him questions and he'll respond back, what do you get out of it? What are you thinking? What are you seeing? So instead of him giving me the answer and force feeding it to me, it's more so like, hey, open up your mind, come with a solution, and give me an opportunity to understand what's going on in your head. So if I'm watching Jesse's session, I will sit there and I'll go, I wonder what he's doing, why he's trying that, what he's doing. And then I'll kind of like hope, bite my tongue for a second and see the next progression. Then I go, okay, that's exactly what I would have done as well. Or I never thought of it like that. So come with an open mind is what I would do first. Understand and see what Jesse's trying to do, why he's trying to do it. And then if you figure out what and why, find out the context. What part of the season was this in? Like you said, Jesse, there's opportunities where the girls were probably going to get exercises that were going to, force them to get a lot of repetition. So you may not be focusing on repetitions. It's more so the foundational pieces of the big picture of what they're going to be seeing. So again, had you not told me, now I'm like, okay, it must have been a slow day for them, recovery day, functional day. So I got that piece, but I'm also missing a huge piece now that you maybe I didn't know. So now I know. So it's following up and seeing and confirming if the ideas that you may have had based on what you saw in the context, or what you saw, and then getting the context from the person who created the session.
Dude, there's nothing worse than like when I was a kid. Okay, when I was a younger coach, made it sound like I was like 12 years old running sessions out there. Which hey, there's some people out there who are doing that, so you never know. But I remember I went and watched Liverpool's academy, a training session, and then I just went out the next day and I just ran that session without talking to those Liverpool coaches on why they were doing that at all, nor understanding the level of the goalkeepers that they were working with too. Needless to say.
Mike.
Oh man,
we've all done that.
Thank God it wasn't on social media.
But that's the thing too, is like you hear these coaches and sometimes their terminology is very much geared toward the goalkeeper they're speaking to. So I remember saying things that I used to hear from Neil Cutler, and I would see his stuff, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to use that. I'm going to say exactly what he just said, and then I would say it, and the goalkeepers would be like, what are you talking about? And I would be like, I'm just saying this, and this. And they're just like, but how does that pertain to me? Like, I don't understand that. And I'm just like, give me 5. I got to go back and check why Neil said that or what he was trying to say. So it's important, again, make those mistakes as a young coach early, but always try, and for me at least, articulate your thoughts of what you're seeing and why you're going to try and implement it. And then when a goalkeeper does challenge you, because they will sometimes, when it's like a session that they kind of just go out of left field, what is this? You can kind of say, oh, this is what I'm trying to work on. And most goalkeepers will always say and give you the benefit of the doubt and go, okay, I got you. As long as you can confirm to me why we're doing this.
Yeah. And speaking of understanding why we're doing this, we're doing this because Jesse, we're doing it on Tuesday because Jesse is heading to, where is it, Oklahoma tomorrow?
Yeah, we open our season on Thursday against Tulsa and then Sunday against Oklahoma State in kind of like a preseason tournament. I think it's called like the Cowgirl Classic or something.
Are you guys performing? Are you guys participating in the Cowgirl Classic at Cal State LA, Omar? Are you guys you guys doing that?
We're not. We play UC Riverside on Friday. That's the closest. We'll get to that. But guys, I got to head out. I'm so sorry, Jesse. Always a pleasure, man.
Always. Thank you, Omar.
Obviously, guys, follow Omar Zini at ProGK Academy _ Jesse, where's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, goal line on both. If you're listening to this and you do want to see the sessions, just send me a message on Instagram. I'm happy to share the Google Drive with you. I'm always updating it with our sessions. So just let me know and we can talk more.
Cool. And also, obviously, shout out to United Goalkeeping Alliance, Eric Eisenhunt, for sharing this out with the community out there. I know that you guys really believe in Jesse and everything that he's doing, and I'm glad that you were able to share this content out with people. Guys, contact at InsideThe18media.com or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. My website is updated, guys, michaelmagidcomedy.com. All my tour dates are up there, I think, until November, October 21st, 22nd, I will be in Racine, Wisconsin. Actually, I'll be in Racine, Wisconsin. Shout out to Stan Anderson. We're going to be making a big announcement very soon on why that's going to be. So if you guys are in the Wisconsin area, if you're a Camp Shutout alum, we'd love to see you out there for this very, very important charity benefit show that we're going to be doing out there. That's all the time on Inside the 18, guys, and we are out. Later, guys.
Yeah.